In the heart of the desert, where the sun scorches rusted fences and forgotten secrets, lies a decommissioned military testing site known only as the Neutral Zone. Locals whisper of machines that move on their own and a phantom drone that stalks the night sky. But when the Mystery Incorporated gang arrives to investigate, they stumble upon a cryptic message, recorded by Scooby-Doo himself, dated 2120. Who sent it, and why is it warning them to leave? The van groaned under the desert sun as Mystery Incorporated crossed a cracked highway that vanished into endless dunes. Heat shimmered on the horizon like a mirage, but Fred's eyes were locked on the faded military signage half buried in the sand, U.S. government property, no trespassing. Velma adjusted her glasses, scanning the coordinates scribbled on a wrinkled letter they received anonymously. This is it, she said. The Neutral Zone. Daphne frowned. A military base in the middle of nowhere that was shut down decades ago. And now suddenly, ghost drones. Shaggy clutched Scooby closer, both trembling. Ruro. I liked this mystery better when it was just a rumor. But the true mystery hadn't even begun. Just beyond the rusted gates, a signal pulsed through the static of their radio, one that wasn't supposed to exist. As they passed the threshold into the compound, a chill prickled their skin despite the heat. The building stood skeletal, windows shattered, antennae twisted like scorched fingers clawing at the sky. Velma's scanner began to beep, detecting electromagnetic anomalies. There's a massive power surge here, totally unaccounted for. Fred pulled the van up beside a concrete control tower, its metal doors sealed shut. Let's split up and look for an access point. Shaggy groaned, can we split up, like, at a diner instead? Scooby whimpered, nodding. But before anyone could argue, a sudden whooshing sound sliced the air. A shadow zipped overhead, fast, silent, and circular. Daphne gasped. Was that one of the drones? The object disappeared beyond the dunes, and then, as quickly as it came, silence returned. They found the tower's back door slightly ajar, its lock clearly broken, not recently, but not old either. Inside, dust coated every surface, but the monitors blinked faintly with red standby lights. Velma leaned close to a control panel. This tech should be completely offline. The entire facility was gutted in the 80s. Someone, or something, is rebooting it. As she tapped a key, a monitor sprang to life, displaying rows of data scrolling at dizzying speed. Then, a distortion, a flicker. And suddenly, a video file loaded. The screen showed darkness. Static. Then. Scooby-Doo's face. Older, worn, and looking terrified. His voice trembled, if you're seeing this, it's already started. The breach can't be closed. Get out. Before it loops again. The file cut out. Silence fell. Everyone stared at the monitor. What did we just watch? Daphne whispered. Velma shook her head. That wasn't deepfake tech. That was real. The biometrics match, but this recording was timestamped from the year 2120. Fred tried to rationalize. Maybe someone's playing a prank. Trying to scare people off the land. But his words lacked conviction. Velma spoke carefully. If that's real, then this area isn't just haunted. It's caught in a temporal loop. A fracture in time. Shaggy paced nervously. You mean, like, time travel? Alternate futures? Time ghost Scooby. We're not ready for this, man. Just then, the floor rumbled beneath them. The monitors all blinked red. Outside, a mechanical whirring began to rise. Scooby's ears shot up. Ruro, they rushed outside in time to see a drone hover above the main bunker, sleek, silver, and blinking with a strange blue glow. It scanned the ground, then locked onto the gang. It's targeting us. Daphne shouted. Fred led them behind a half-collapsed hangar as the drone fired a blinding beam of light, not lethal, but magnetic, it lifted metallic debris into the air, hurling it randomly. "It's like it's trying to hurt us," Velma said. Shaggy ducked as a barrel flew past his head. "Like, into what? A trap?" The drone suddenly stopped. Hovered. Then, as if losing interest, it zipped away into the open sky. They emerged cautiously, trying to catch their breath. Velma examined a shard of metal the drone's beam had touched. "This isn't military-grade tech. It's far beyond anything developed before the base was shut down. And this composition, it's partially synthetic. This drone isn't just rogue, it doesn't belong to this time." Fred nodded, absorbing it all. "That means the neutral zone isn't abandoned, it's active. Just not in ways we understand." Daphne looked toward the largest structure in the distance, a massive underground silo with its hatch forced open. "Then that's where we go next." Shaggy and Scooby backed away. "Or hear us out, we go literally anywhere else." But Fred had already made up his mind. As the sun dipped behind the mountains and the base was swallowed in golden shadow, the gang moved toward the silo. From deep within, a new signal echoed faintly on Velma's scanner, stronger than before, and repeating. A voice looped in static, sequence failed. Rebooting breach protocol. T-minus 60 minutes. Velma's breath caught. That's a countdown. But for what? Fred pushed the hatch open wider, revealing a staircase leading into darkness. With flashlights flickering to life, the team descended into the unknown, unaware that the next hour would change the course of their future, and their past. Their footsteps echoed down the rusted metal staircase as the gang descended into the earth. The air grew cooler, heavier, saturated with dust and the faint hum of dormant machines. Velma's flashlight cut through the darkness, revealing a corridor lined with reinforced steel doors, each marked with faded alphanumeric codes. "This must have been a command-level bunker," she muttered. "Cold War era, by the look of it." Fred checked a side panel with his flashlight. "Look, manual override system. Still functional." Daphne brushed her fingers against the wall. Why would someone leave this place powered after deactivation? Unless it was never truly shut down. At the far end of the corridor, a red emergency light blinked slowly, drawing them closer with each pulse. They reached a central control room, domed ceiling, circular consoles, and a massive central terminal that thrummed with silent energy. On one wall, a glowing map displayed the layout of the entire facility, but parts of it blinked erratically. Velma immediately connected her scanner to the system. "Something's interfacing with this terminal, from the future. This isn't residual data, someone's actively communicating with this base." Scooby growled lowly as a ventilation fan creaked above them. "Rarabot?" Shaggy stepped behind a console. "Or like, alien hackers from the year 3000. Velma's eyes narrowed. "No. This is time loop architecture. It's designed to reboot reality in segmented phases." Fred frowned. "So, like a cosmic Groundhog Day?" Velma nodded grimly. "But with higher stakes." Suddenly, one of the side monitors flickered. A screen activated on its own, showing surveillance footage, real time. They watched themselves in grainy black and white, walking down the hall just moments ago. But as the footage continued, it glitched, and restarted. Again and again. "It's looping us," Daphne whispered. "Not metaphorically. Literally." Velma tapped the console furiously. "This bunker is a temporal hot zone. Time within these walls is unstable. It resets every 60 minutes unless someone overrides it. And worse, look at the timestamp." Everyone leaned in. The footage was marked, loop number 1732. Fred stepped back. "We've done this before." Velma swallowed. "Thousands of times, maybe. And each time, we forget." Scooby sniffed the air suddenly. "Rue. Someone's here. The lights flickered, then stabilized. Shaggy pointed toward the far end of the room. A shadow shifted. Footsteps echoed. From the darkness emerged a figure, cloaked in a matte black hazmat suit, visor completely opaque. The figure didn't speak. It held a small spherical device emitting a low hum. "State your identity," Fred demanded. The figure lifted the sphere, then placed it on the ground. A projection activated. Once again, the image of Scooby-Doo from the future appeared. Only now, the message continued. "I've tried to stop it, but each loop resets before I can warn you all. This is the 1732nd iteration. You can still break the cycle, but only if you find the core. It's beneath Silo 9. And you have less than," the message cut abruptly. The figure stood still, watching them. Velma stepped forward cautiously. "Are you with the military? A researcher?" The figure turned away, pressing something into the wall. A hidden panel slid open, revealing an elevator shaft. Without a word, it stepped inside. "Should we follow?" Daphne asked. "Do we have a choice?" Fred replied. They entered the shaft, and the elevator doors closed. A low rumble began as the car descended. On the ride down, Shaggy whispered, "Why would future Scooby be sending us messages? Like, shouldn't we be warning him?" Velma didn't answer. She stared at the digital countdown embedded in the elevator's wall, 36 minutes and 19 seconds. Time was running out. When the doors opened, they found themselves in an underground chamber unlike any other part of the base. The walls pulsed with a faint blue light, metal merged with crystal, technology fused with something alien. The air vibrated. In the center stood a tower-like machine, surrounded by rotating rings and spirals of light. "This is it," Velma said. "The temporal core." The figure in the hazmat suit stepped forward, removed its helmet, and the gang gasped. It was Velma. Older. Worn. And scared. "You finally made it," she said. "This is your last loop. If we don't shut the core down now, time won't reset. It will collapse." The younger Velma staggered back. How is this possible?" The older Velma explained, her voice trembling. "I stayed behind in the 1216th loop. Sacrificed my place in the cycle to guide you here. But I'm fragmenting. The core pulls memories, identity, time itself. Each loop, you forget more. But Scooby, somehow, he remembers." Fred stepped forward. "What do we do?" Older Velma looked toward the core. "There's a manual override, buried inside the chamber. But accessing it risks being caught in the chronal fold. One wrong step, and your timeline disintegrates." A siren began to echo from above. The countdown had reached 9 minutes and 58 seconds. Daphne shouted, "What happens at 0? Older Velma answered, "Reality reboots. But incomplete. Your minds dissolve. Eventually, there will be nothing left of you but echoes." Scooby sniffed the machine, then barked and pointed. "Right here." A small hatch opened beneath the core's main circuit. The gang worked quickly, guided by older Velma's instructions. Sparks flew. The ground rumbled. Fred held the hatch open as Velma crawled inside. At the very last second, 1 second, Velma pulled the lever. Everything went white. Sound exploded. Light swallowed all. Light faded into static. Then, static into silence. The silence into breath. Velma opened her eyes slowly, disoriented, lying flat on the metal floor beneath the temporal core. The chamber was still intact, but the core had powered down, its rotating rings frozen in midair. She sat up, coughing. "Did it work?" she whispered. All around her, dust hovered unnaturally in the air, as if frozen in time. And the others, where were they? Fred groaned, pushing himself up from behind a shattered console. Daphne staggered to her feet, clutching her head. What just happened? Shaggy sat with his arms around Scooby, both looking like they'd just survived a nuclear blast. Like, did we break time or just bend it into a pretzel? Velma looked at the countdown panel, it was blank. No numbers. No blinking. I think we stopped the loop, she said cautiously. But we didn't leave the time zone. We're still inside, whatever this is. They checked on the older Velma, but she was gone. Only her hazmat helmet remained, scorched and cracked. She was never meant to survive the shutdown, Velma said softly. Her existence depended on the loop. Once we ended it, she vanished, like a memory. Daphne knelt beside the helmet. She stayed here all those loops, just to get us to this moment. Scooby picked up the helmet gently. Rolma, he whimpered. Velma squeezed his paw. Let's honor her by getting out of here. But escape would prove more complicated. The elevator was gone, replaced by a solid wall of seamless metal. The corridor behind them had twisted, walls no longer square, angles warped into strange geometries. Velma's scanner showed conflicting spatial coordinates. Guys, this isn't just an underground bunker anymore. The shutdown collapsed parts of the temporal field. We're inside a folded space, a residual echo of all previous loops. Fred frowned. You're saying this whole base has become a time ghost? More like a fractured pocket, she said. Half real, half memory. They navigated through corridors that changed shape, with doors leading to places they'd never seen before. One room held a 1960s-style living space, looping the same news broadcast about lunar landings. Another displayed future tech, a glass desk typing by itself, projecting images of Scooby in a suit of chrome armor. In one chamber, they found a replica of the mystery machine, old, abandoned, rusted out. Shaggy pointed at the license plate. That's our van, but the registration's from 2089. Velma checked the chassis. This isn't a copy. This is the van. Somehow, a future version was pulled into the fold. In the control wing, they stumbled upon a massive digital library with logs from the base's last active years. One entry stood out, dated March 3, 2119. Fred read aloud, Project Nutrizone, classified. Intent, to explore and control localized time warping for strategic defense. Status: unstable. Note, subject number 4 has retained memories across resets. Subject's identifier, SD-1. Daphne gasped. That's Scooby. Velma nodded. He's the constant. His brain isn't like ours. The project might have chosen him, or maybe he was the only one who could survive it. Suddenly, an alarm flared, an old klaxon scream echoing through the fractured base. Lights snapped on and off in chaotic bursts. A message blared through broken intercoms, temporal breach detected. Loop fragments active. Initiate phase cleanse. Fred barked orders, everyone, move. Doors slammed shut behind them as they ran, chased not by people, but by shadows. Faint humanoid outlines, flickering in and out like bad reception. Loop echoes. Remnants of previous selves. The gang ducked into a spherical room, sealed it from the inside, and braced themselves. We can't outrun time's fragments forever, Velma panted. We need to reboot a stable reality, force the zone into one timeline. How? Daphne asked. By anchoring ourselves to a fixed point, outside the fold. Velma turned to Scooby. You're our anchor. Shaggy blinked. Wait, Scoob's our time tether. Velma nodded. Your brain, buddy, it's immune to the cycle. That future version of you wasn't a ghost, it was a beacon. We have to find where that signal originated. As if summoned, Scooby's collar began to glow faintly, pulsing with blue light. A soft hum vibrated through the room. Velma scanned it. There's a residual frequency embedded in your collar. Like a homing beacon. Fred grinned. Then let's follow the trail. They activated the core's emergency override hatch, forcing open a corridor that hadn't been used in decades. Behind it, a staircase descended, twisting downward toward what looked like the original power room of the facility. They followed Scooby's glowing collar through the thick air and down the forgotten stairwell. Velma paused only once. To touch the wall where the loops had left a faint etching, loop number 0001. Her fingers traced the numbers. This is where it began, she whispered. Daphne stepped beside her. Then maybe it's where we can finally end it. The group descended into darkness, unaware that something, or someone, was waiting below. The stairs narrowed into a tight corridor, choked with wires, dust, and old warning signs in faded red paint. Do not enter, temporal core stability zone. Scooby's collar glowed brighter with each step, vibrating now with a faint mechanical hum. Fred swept his flashlight across the walls, catching glimpses of blueprints embedded into the metal-like scars, schematics for machines too complex for their time. Velma walked ahead, reading data from her scanner. This is it. The original lab. The place where the first-time breach occurred. They entered a massive chamber shaped like an hourglass, its two ends funneling into a narrow core in the center. Machinery lined the walls, spinning gyroscopes, massive coils, and computer towers long dead but still faintly warm. In the center stood a device suspended by magnetic fields, a large glass sphere with sand inside, flowing upward. Daphne gasped. That's not possible. Velma nodded, awe in her voice. That's the hourglass machine. The first prototype. It doesn't measure time. It bends it. Suddenly, Scooby's collar synced with the device. A beam of blue light shot out from the sphere, projecting a hologram midair. It flickered and stabilized, revealing a future version of Scooby-Doo, older, wearing a silver exosuit with a military insignia on the chest, SD-1, Temporal Vanguard Division. His voice was calm, deeper. If you're seeing this, then you reached the core. I've failed to close the loop myself, but you, me. You're the key. The hourglass machine must be reversed. But only if you're ready to remember what we lost. The hologram glitched, revealing flashes of other timelines, images of Shaggy in a lab coat, Fred leading soldiers through the desert, Velma standing at a podium labeled Temporal Ethics Council, 2108. Then it paused on an image of Daphne wearing a wedding ring and holding a newborn baby wrapped in a U.S. Space Command blanket. The scene flickered, then vanished. Everyone stood frozen. What was that? Daphne whispered. Velma's voice trembled. Those were alternate futures. Branches the loop tried, and failed, to protect. Fred gritted his teeth. So we were all part of this experiment. Even in the future. Velma shook her head. No. We became part of it. That drone that chased us, the recordings, the memory gaps, it was all the fold trying to guide us back here. And now we know why. Shaggy swallowed hard. Like, we're not just solving a mystery. We're part of the equation. The team approached the hourglass machine. Velma examined the control panel, surprisingly intact, with a single interface still blinking, reset to anchor timeline. Y/N. She hesitated. If we do this, we might erase everything. The base, the loop, even parts of ourselves. Scooby stepped forward and nudged her hand toward the panel. Row it, he said softly. Daphne placed her hand over Velma's. We trust you. Fred nodded. It's the only way out. Velma pressed Y. The machine shuddered. Sand inside the sphere froze, then began to fall normally. Light surged across the chamber. A distant siren began to wail, not in warning, but in acknowledgement. The walls shimmered, becoming translucent. Through them, the team could see hundreds of versions of themselves, ghosts of other loops, watching silently as the true timeline reasserted itself. Then came a low rumble. The room quaked violently. "We need to get out, now," Fred yelled. But there was no door, no stairwell. The only way out was down. The hourglass machine opened at its base, revealing a swirling pool of light. "It's a bridge," Velma shouted over the noise. "To the original timeline. We jump, or we're trapped forever." One by one, they dove. Fred first, pulling Daphne with him. Shaggy screamed and leapt with Scooby in his arms. Velma hesitated, looking back one last time at the machine, the ghosts fading, the echoes vanishing. She whispered, "Thank you," and leapt. Darkness. Then light. The sound of birds. The smell of gasoline. They landed with a thud on the warm roof of the mystery machine, parked outside the base under a blazing desert sun. No alarms. No drones. Just wind and heat. Shaggy looked around. We're back." Velma scanned the van. "No, we're home. The fold's gone. We're out." But something felt off. Daphne stared ahead, eyes wide. "Guys, look at the sign." They turned to see the base's old rusted entry plaque. But it didn't read Project Nutrizone. Instead, it said, United States Temporal Research Outpost, EST 2120. Fred looked at Velma. "Wait, that's the future." Velma's scanner beeped wildly. "We're not in the past. We're not in the present. We're in the anchor timeline. A timeline that hasn't happened yet, but was always meant to." Scooby's collar let out a soft chime. And from inside the van, a familiar voice played back a final message. "Mystery Incorporated has completed its mission. Temporal alignment achieved. Welcome to the future." The desert was no longer quiet. Far in the distance, a low humming filled the air like a swarm of metallic hornets. Over the ridge beyond the newly rebranded base, dark shapes were rising, swarms of drones in synchronized motion, forming geometric patterns in the sky. Their cores glowed with the same blue energy as the hourglass machine. Mystery Incorporated stood in stunned silence. Velma tapped furiously on her scanner. "These aren't military drones. At least, not from our time. They're running something called Sentinel Protocol 9. Fred narrowed his eyes. "And what exactly does that mean?" She swallowed. "It means, we triggered a failsafe. A cleanup protocol. The timeline's anchoring itself, but it's deleting the corrupted echoes left behind. And we might be one of them." Inside the base, the old concrete had been replaced with smooth obsidian walls, humming with quiet power. As the team moved back through the corridor, doors slid open automatically, recognizing them. Screens came to life, showing files labeled Subject Archive, Mystery Incorporated. Daphne leaned in and gasped. "These are us. Every case we ever solved. Every town. Every disguise." Shaggy flipped through one file showing a hologram of him in 1974 with Scooby in a clown outfit. "Like, even the embarrassing ones?" Velma tapped a console and accessed the drone command log. Her face went pale. "Guys. These drones aren't hunting us. They're retrieving us. Or rather, retrieving our data." A holographic assistant appeared, taking the form of a translucent Professor Pericles. "Greetings, Legacy Anomalies. You have exited the anomaly corridor and reached Archive State 0. By protocol, you must be catalogued before deletion." "Deletion?" Fred stepped forward. "Wait, we just stabilized the anchor timeline." The AI shook its head. "Yes. And your mission is complete. Therefore, your original versions are no longer necessary. You will be stored, or erased. Scooby whimpered. Ruro, Velma scanned the assistant's code. It's not alive, it's a copy of someone who worked on this decades ago. Maybe centuries. She pointed to a blinking console marked Drone Archive, Authority Override Key Required. Daphne asked, who would have had that key? Just then, a soft beep came from Scooby's collar. A message, voice imprint match, Scooby-Doo. Authorization granted. Scooby blinked. Me? Velma smiled. Of course. The version of you from 2120 was part of the temporal vanguard. That Scooby became the override key. Scooby placed his paw on the console, and instantly the base dimmed. A voice echoed through the halls, override accepted. Sentinel drones disengaged. The swarms in the sky halted mid-flight, hovered, then silently shot upward into orbit, vanishing into the blue. The team exhaled in relief. Okay, Fred muttered, so we just stopped a future war with our own faces on the wanted posters. Velma turned toward the archive. Not just stopped it, we redefined the record. This place doesn't see us as errors anymore. It sees us as founders. A hidden panel slid open behind them, revealing a massive circular chamber filled with drones, hundreds of them, deactivated and arranged in rings. At the center stood one drone, slightly larger, with a scratched serial number, DR00N3GH057. Daphne whispered, the ghost drone. That's the one that attacked us. Velma nodded. But it wasn't attacking. It was guiding us. It brought us here on purpose. To finish what we started. Fred ran his hand over the drone's surface. Then why did it try to kill us? The drone powered on briefly, projecting a fragmented message, integrity. Compromised. Hostile data corruption. Locate core source. Human inside, the message cut. Velma's face went pale. There's someone else in the timeline loop. Someone, who shouldn't be. Suddenly, the base lights flickered again. The AI returned. New anomaly detected. Temporal anchor breach. Unknown subject re-entered core chamber. Shaggy yelped. Like, what now? Velma turned toward the stairs. There's only one place left we haven't gone. Below the core. The real beginning. Scooby barked. Right now? Fred nodded grimly. If someone's inside that machine, they might be trying to undo everything we just fixed. As the team headed back to the center of the base, the air grew cold, almost liquid. A strange pulse moved through the walls, a rhythm like a heartbeat. Velma checked the scanner. This isn't energy. It's memory. The base is remembering everything all at once. Daphne reached the threshold of the core chamber, now glowing gold instead of blue. What if it's not a person, but a version of one of us? Fred looked at her, then back at the door. Then we better hope they remember what side they're on. Inside the core, a figure stood with their back turned, bathed in light. Their silhouette matched someone familiar, too familiar. Velma stepped forward, her voice shaking. Who are you? The figure turned around. It was Velma. But older. Worn. Eyes filled with data streams and regret. You shouldn't have come back, the future Velma whispered. You've just reset the war. The chamber throbbed with unstable energy. Lights flickered as time itself seemed to stutter, moments overlapping, voices echoing from past and future at once. The air felt heavier, as if history and possibility were compressing into a single point. In the center, the temporal core radiated a bluish pulse that beat like a heart, one keeping this fractured reality alive. Velma stared at the console, its holographic interface glitching rapidly. This core is about to breach the temporal threshold. If we don't stabilize it, the base will collapse into a loop where this moment repeats forever. Forever. Shaggy's voice cracked. Like, you mean we'll be stuck reliving this creepy déjà vu desert nightmare again and again? Scooby whimpered and nodded, Roo-ha, like Groundhog Day, but scary. Fred tightened his grip on a nearby stabilizing rod. Velma, what do we need to do? Velma hesitated. To stop the loop, we need to realign the core's frequency to match our present time signature. But the console won't respond to present-day input. It's locked, unless someone from the future activates it. Daphne stepped forward, holding the cracked device they had found back in the drone nest. What about this? The future Scooby's recording was stored here. Maybe it's more than just a message, maybe it's a key. Velma's eyes lit up. That could work. It's quantum encoded. Plug it in. But be ready. If this works, it might trigger a cascade event. The future, and the past, will both push back. As Daphne inserted the device, the chamber went still. The lights dimmed. Then, the hologram of future Scooby flickered to life again, standing beside the team like a ghost in light. His eyes scanned them slowly. You have reached the breach point, his voice echoed, calm yet distorted. The past must choose to reset. The loop must end. But a sacrifice will be required. Shaggy gulped. What kind of sacrifice? Like a sandwich? I can make a really big one if that helps. The hologram continued, unaffected. Temporal rupture requires anchor removal. One entity must remain behind to realign the core's imprint. An organic memory, bound to this moment in time. Velma stepped back, realizing the implication. It wants one of us to stay. To be erased from the present timeline. Like, we never existed. A heavy silence filled the room. No one moved. Then Scooby slowly stepped forward, ears low. Roo. I'll do it. No. Shaggy ran and grabbed him. You can't. I won't let you. Fred's voice trembled. There has to be another way. Velma's fingers flew across the console, searching for alternatives. Wait, maybe the memory doesn't have to be lost. Maybe if we upload Scooby's consciousness into the system, we can trick the core into thinking he's still here, without losing him. Daphne nodded. Like a digital shadow. Scooby tilted his head. Me? Inside the machine. Velma nodded. Only for a moment. Long enough to reset the frequency. Then the system will shut down, and we'll pull you back. With a brave nod, Scooby approached the core. Velma connected his collar to the console. Ready? He licked her hand gently. Ready. The chamber erupted in blinding light as the upload began. Velma's screen filled with cascading data, symbols flashing at dizzying speeds. The ground trembled as the machine screamed in protest. Then, silence. The light faded. The console went dark. The chamber stopped pulsing. The hum of unstable time had vanished. Shaggy looked around frantically. Scooby. Nothing. Fred put a hand on his shoulder. Wait, the console flickered once more. A soft bark came through the speaker. Rebooting, system. Rokai. Shaggy sobbed, hugging the machine. Moments later, Scooby stumbled out of the shadows, shaken but alive. Roo. I don't like computers. They all laughed through tears. Outside the base, the desert had returned to silence. The stars above were steady again. The equipment lay dormant. The ghost drones were gone. Velma looked out across the sand, her voice thoughtful. We saw a glimpse of what time can do when tampered with, and how fragile it all is. But we also saw that courage, loyalty, and friendship echo across timelines. Fred smiled. No more loops. No more ghosts. Just a mystery, solved. As they climbed back into the mystery machine and drove into the night, none of them noticed the small drone watching from a ridge. It blinked once, recording the moment, then silently turned and vanished into the dark.